Hey, everybody, welcome back to another Daily Drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and the topic today, Carolina basketball. We're less than a month away from the Tar Heels opening the season. In fact, we've got ACC tip-off in Charlotte this week. Next week, the Heels are at Memphis in an exhibition game. The week after that, Johnson C. Smith. And a week after that, the opener against Elon, and it will be off to the races. Basketball season is what I like to call a very long sprint. Looking forward to it. I think this team has a chance to be A, very exciting, B, very good, and C, very interesting. We will hit on that a ton as we gear up toward the start of the basketball season. What I want to do in this one is continue our player preview series that we're using in some of these daily drops. We've already done RJ Davis. We've done Elliot Cadeau. Today, we do Jaylen Washington, the 6'10". I know Hubert Davis, by the way, said 6'11" in the press conference last week. I asked Jaylen 25 minutes later. He laughed and said he's not 6'11", he's 6'10". 6'10", tad bulkier, not a lot bulkier, but he doesn't need to get that much bigger. It's how he handles and uses his size and strength and how he absorbs it when opponents do that. Those are the important things about his size right now. Let's quickly take a look. Last season, averaged 8.4 minutes a game, 3.9 points, 2.6 rebounds. He shot 70.1% from the field. And this will surprise some people, but he was 8 for 15 from the free throw line. And I remember talking to him after a game when he hit 2 threes. I think it was 2 threes, certainly 1 3. And he said, I hit threes all the time. It's a normal, natural shot for me. It's a part of what I do. And that's what's interesting about this season, because you have a guy who very well could start at the 5, I think is the likely starter at the 5, who could step out and do some things that, for all that Armando Bacot did wonderfully well, that really wasn't a part of his game that defenses had to honor so much. With Jaylen Washington, we know that there's the turnaround jumper. We know there's the face-up 12, 15-foot jumper. We know that he can roll to the rim after the high ball screens. He's a pick-and-roll guy. He got so much better last year, something he openly spoke about, at being ready for the ball. And he finished. Go back and look at his flushes last year. He flushed a lot, especially later in the season, and he flushed emphatically. In fact, when I was at practice last week, they were doing a drill, and every time he flushed, there was some vigor with that. He was screaming. There was some intensity with it. It was just a drill in practice. So I think that that's an indicator. It's a minor thing, but it's also an indicator that there is a lot of vitality in his game that is waiting to sort of burst out at the seams. Now, finishing up on last year, there were times when he didn't play well. There were times where he kind of hit the floor quickly. There were times where he didn't handle contact real well. That has been a point of emphasis this entire offseason. And what's interesting is a couple of us were talking with Jalen Withers on Friday, asked him about Jaylen Washington, and he said, look, Jalen battled Armando for a couple of years. Now, the first year, Jalen was sort of in a rehab situation. He was still trying to get his body right. And then last year was his first healthy year in like 3 years. So he was still in the formative type of part of his development as a big man at the college level, which means how he goes about practice. We saw some of the baby steps of that on the court at times last year. But Jalen Withers insists that he is a grown man now. He battles like a grown man under the basket. He's taken all that beating that he got from Armando and he's applying it to the court now. And that's important to know because there's so much talk about Carolina being a small team. But if you have a 6'10" athletic big man who could float around the court, can block shots from the weak side, can run baseline to baseline. In fact, Hubert says that he's their best running big man. And you've also got a guy that can body up and drive people off the lower block some, that can power post moves on people. If he has enough of that in his game, then Carolina has what it needs as far as a starting big, especially when you look at some past national champions. I'll go into that in a different pod. David and I are going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. Done a lot of research on it. The bottom line is Jaylen Washington has the physical attributes the bouncy attributes, the head attributes. He's a smart kid, smart player. He's a good guy. Hubert Davis called him adorable. Never heard an athlete called adorable by a coach, but he said, hey, when you get on the court, I don't want you to be so adorable. So that's the kind of guy I think Carolina's going to see this year. Carolina fans are going to see. He's not always going to go for big numbers. And I don't think you should expect big numbers early. What you want to do is see a guy grow into his spot, grow into his role. I will venture that the Jaylen Washington you see in Maui, for example, will be a different player than the one you see in February. I think this is a deal because he's got to get, there's confidence. There's confidence in the body. There's confidence in the game. It's been a long time since he was the man, and it wasn't his fault with all those injuries. It's going to take time, but you're going to see a confident and self-assured and very ultra-focused Jaylen Washington in February, assuming things go as I think they probably will. And what does that mean for Carolina? It means that they have a 6'10" guy that can do a lot of stuff. And if you have that 6'10" guy that can do a lot of stuff and you surround him with Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis and Cade Tyson and some of those other guys, and you team them down low with Van Allen Lubin and Jalen Withers, not to mention Ian Jackson and Drake Powell, that's a pretty good situation. I think that the lean would go in that direction for me on Jaylen Washington than the other direction. I could be wrong, but it's just what I sense. Conversations I've had lead me to believe this, and just standing there talking to Jaylen last week. And I think Jalen's pretty honest about who he is and about his game, and he expects to have a pretty good year. And Hubert Davis said in his press conference on Friday, Jaylen Washington has positioned himself to be a very important contributor, a big contributor to this team this year. Not just a guy who has a role, but a big contributor. So it'll be very interesting to see how this thing plays out. Hubert also said, by the way, in addition to the best big man around the court, best finisher, best offensive rebounder, said he's crashing it. He can stop and pop. There's a lot of things he could do. And when I was watching practice, just seeing him run up and down the floor, it's Carolina fans are going to like this. They're going to like watching him get out and transition. I think he will be an asset in that department. But have patience. Allow his game to grow in season this year. And I think it probably will at a pretty good rate. If you're excited about the potential of Jaylen Washington, click like on this video. If you're excited just about basketball, it's here. Go ahead and click like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Make sure you tell all of your Carolina Tar Heel friends that we're here. Let them know we're here. We want every Carolina fan to know we're here. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get updates every time we upload. And for just $8.33 a month, you can be a Tar Heel Insider too. But guess what? This week, we're making all of our content free, except the premium board. We can't turn that free. But all of the posted content through the Georgia Tech game, football game, is all free, so you can get a taste of what we do. We know Carolina football fans are suffering right now, so we decided to throw everybody a bone, make it all free, but that includes our basketball stuff too. So make sure you go on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com, check us out, sign up, and you can be a Tar Heel Insider too. I'm AJ, and I appreciate you stopping by.